Alright, so we're going to the Serpentine in Hyde Park. It should be a good day. It's a little bit cold. It's like 10:45 on a Tuesday morning, but things are looking up.
So here, along the banks of the Serpentine, we see a very large, long... Maddie, what do we have here?
It's a swimming pool, and I love it because you could swim with like some of the birds, but in reality it's cool. Look, there's like a shower, so again, kind of like meeting there's a net in my like the natural with like the man-made. We have a man-made like swimming area that we tried to keep nature from getting into. That didn't work, but you can still come and have a good time and then shower off afterwards.
So we see that, like as Maddie said, part of this lake has been enclosed to swim. But you can still swim with your little pals over here, little swans. And yeah, you can see there's some inserted elements such as these bars, there's some buoys around the side. Over there seems to be like a little platform. And yeah.
Okay, so here we also see a waterfall as we enter in to the Serpentine Lake, which is behind us. Obviously, this part is much more man-made, as you can see by the bridge and by the descending waterfalls. It is still very pretty. We've got some blossoms coming in for the springtime. We also have this nice little path here that kind of leads you to have a nice little stroll through and take a nice little gander at this lovely little waterfall.
Alright, well this is the Serpentine, well at least the eastern portion. Technically the Serpentine is only the part west of the bridge, but everyone kind of refers to this as the Serpentine. It was created by Queen Caroline in 1730. It originally drew water from the Tyburn Brook and the River Westbrook, or Westburn in the 1730s, and then a little bit later on they pumped water from the Thames. And now all the water comes from Hyde Park. So yeah, cool to see. It's kind of interesting how the city government has kind of added on this man-made feature with more man-made features, like this cafe here, right, abutting the water. They have an old Citroen over there, and it's kind of just a little spot to hang out. And that's another feature of the recreation here. As you can kind of see, because the Serpentine is a man-made water feature, and oh hey. And so it's kind of interesting that they had to erect a bridge to go over the man-made feature. It's kind of something to note. Alright, as you can see they have paddle boats here you could use. They're probably really nice on like a nice June day. I don't want to go over today, kind of cold. But you can kind of see the park's kind of been adapted from this. It was kind of originally a royal or kind of imperial site, and now it's kind of used for public recreation, which is kind of an interesting transition that it's made in the 21st century.
Especially since it's next to Kensington Palace.
Yeah, it's Kensington Gardens, like right there. On the other side of the bridge, so yeah.
Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot of natural elements here inside the man-made park, but like this tree shows you, in construction, despite I guess maybe their best efforts, you can't get rid of all the natural elements around you to build something cool or great. And so I like that in this place, what they decided to do is they just built around it and really incorporated what was already here into what they wanted. Yeah. They have like, they might... Speed!
Maddie, what do we have here?
It's a swimming pool, and I love it because you could swim with like some of the birds, but in reality it's cool. Look, there's like a shower, so again, kind of like meeting there's a net in my like the natural with like the man-made. We have a man-made like swimming area that we tried to keep nature from getting into. That didn't work, but you can still come and have a good time and then shower off afterwards.
So we see that, like as Maddie said, part of this lake has been enclosed to swim. But you can still swim with your little pals over here, little swans. And yeah, you can see there's some inserted elements such as these bars, there's some buoys around the side. Over there seems to be like a little platform. And yeah.
Growing up on the swim team, I've always loved taking a dip in the water, and I personally would want to swim in this lake. even though it is considered illegal. I think it is kind of gross. It reminds me of Sugar House Pond, but I mean, you just gotta do it for the memories and just to say that you did it at least once.
Definitely walking around Hyde Park Corner, you can for sure tell that it is more man-made just from the way that the nature is kind of pushed back a bit more out, and the lake is surrounded by the concrete and sort of a sidewalk for people that's nice and neat to come and walk and look. Whereas Battersea Park's sort of lake systems, they're much more natural. There are some areas where you can get down close to the water, as you can see. However, it's still covered in grass and mud, and it's not covered in concrete.
Alright, so right now we're in Battersea Park. Here's the little pond at Battersea. As you can see, you can kind of see the neighborhood above. This is on the south side of the river, so it's a little bit more modest neighborhood. It's a lot more locals, a lot more tourists, and a lot more birds. It's a lot of birds, quite a few. Yeah, so it's a pretty naturey spot. You can see there's the Loch Ness Monster. Oh, whoa, wow! Did you guys see that? Loch Ness Monster. Wow. Real excitement out here in Battersea today.
So here we are now at Battersea, which used to actually be a marshland, which was reclaimed and cleaned and organized by the British government. We see here a lot of just more natural water systems, but we also see a lot of foreign plants. Like we have this little tropical garden with some foreign trees around here, showing that yes, it's natural, but it's also been inserted by people. We also see around Battersea that there is a nice little path, kind of defining the edge between the water and the park itself.
You can go fishing here.
And you can go fishing here. We also see here, as opposed to the Serpentine, that the edges or like the boundaries of this body of water are much more natural and much more just like just kind of happen by themselves. Back at the Serpentine, you could kind of tell that the river, the pond was kind of structured to fit in the park, to add to the scenery. And although, you know, it looked very natural, it wasn't as, you could tell just by the definition of the edges that it kind of been like created there, while this just kind of happened by itself with the marshland. Back at the Serpentine, the water followed the paths and the alleys and pointed to Kensington Palace and Kensington Gardens along with them, while over here it's just kind of just a natural, kind of just more disorganized just body of water. Like there's no real set paths, there's no real set edges. I mean, there's the trails that go around it, but just kind of like the random disbursement of islands in the middle. The way it wraps around everything is just, you can just tell that it's much more natural here.
Here in Battersea Park, we were walking along this pathway, and one of the indicators that help us know which direction to go is this sign that says "this way." So we will be walking down this pathway. We have some trees, nice shrubbery. We got two fences on either side, one a little taller than the other. Stay posted.
Any additional thoughts about Battersea?
I'd keep that duck right there.
Yeah?
It's cute.
Well, you can see the foliage here is quite untamed. In Hyde Park, you have minimal foliage as such. I mean, you kind of have a clear shot, more visibility. In Hyde Park here, it's kind of limited visibility with the trees, the reeds, and the pond. It looks like swampy.
This kind of seems like an area where you could fall and slip in the mud and maybe lose your keys. It seems more similar to that.
Yeah, the water looks deeper. It looks dirtier by far. More green, a little slimier, more mossy.
Much more natural.
Much more natural. According to Jason, this place used to be a swamp, marshland, and now it has been reclaimed.
All right, fellas, to conclude, fellas and lady, to conclude our expeditions of the two bodies of water, what are our final words?
you know, you kind of got to think about what the purpose of these water features is, you know, in London. It's kind of we talked about communal space and bringing together a kind of ideal community. And these lakes, they kind of represent the ability to set aside space and to set aside somewhere to be public. It's kind of not super practical, but kind of really enjoyable. And that's kind of in both Hyde Park and the Serpentine, and here in Battersea Park, it's kind of a similar idea.
Especially the fact that it works. They do bring people together, not just tourists, but also like locals. It's cool to find places like that where everybody can just kind of be.
Perfect. That's a wrap.
Yeah, that's a wrap. You heard it here first. We're here live with Jason Thomas. We have an interview with one of the locals.
This is Petey the pigeon. Petey, why do you prefer this lake?
Walks away from me.
Well, probably because, yeah.
It looks like some of the locals here don't want to talk
Yeah,
with
they're not
us.
super friendly. I bet he comes here for the tranquility and kind of the laid-back style. You know, it's a pretty chill vibe here. So, you know, let's go Petey.
All right, guys. This is how we're
Are
gonna
you
film.
filming that way?
You know, we're gonna see if we can
Jason.
get Mitchell to slide this scene into the final video, just
Don't
to
even
piss Mike off a little
try,
bit.
man.
So we'll see how that goes.